Gentlemen, I want to start with this. At the end of the week, the president seemed to get his compromise, but at the beginning of the week, he was still dealing with the fallout over the nomination, now withdrawn, of Tom Daschle to be his Health and Human Services Secretary. And listen to what he had to tell CNN's Anderson Cooper. This is a president who had to spend a lot of capital on a personnel issue.
I think this was a mistake. I think I screwed up. And I take responsibility for it, and we're going to make sure we fix it so it doesn't happen again.
James, you remember the rocky early days of the Clinton presidency. That's a pretty big deal, isn't it? A president having to call in the 5 big TV anchors and spend capital on a personnel choice when he's got so many big policy fights.
Well, I mean, I think he did it pretty good. I think this week for him was a little opposite of March. I think he came in on Monday, he was a lamb, and by Friday he was like a lion. He got his feet back. But you're right, it did cause him some problems. The way Washington works is he got wrapped up in this, but I think that Senator Daschle made the right decision by taking his name out. And, he did something that very few presidents do. He got out front of his thing and said he messed up. But, one of the things we got to realize, he's not been in office for 3 weeks. They're going to announce a complete revampment of the way we're doing the banking here on Monday. Their stimulus packages are all but done. They got the S-chip thing done. They got all of the stuff on Gitmo done. They've dispatched envoys to the Middle East, to Pakistan. I mean, we're not 3 weeks away. And if you look back, there's actually a lot of stuff that this administration's gotten done in a very short period of time. And I think he ended the week on a pretty good note here.
Well, Ed, jump in on that point. We learn a lot from new presidents in their early days, and we still don't know a lot about this president, especially when it comes to executive leadership style, because he came out of the United States Senate. What have we learned?
Well, what we've learned is that what he's learned is you get a big house when you get the job, a big office, a big plane. You got to go up to Camp David this weekend, and you got to sit in the presidential box. With those perks comes the toughest job in history. He's there at the toughest time, probably, than any modern president has had. And I think to a certain extent, he's got to fight with his own party. He's got to fight with Republicans. The era of bipartisanship has been over for about 30 years at least. And what he's going to find is there's different viewpoints. Republicans believe in doing something one way. Democrats believe another way. And he may get a couple of Republicans in the Senate once in a great while. Maybe those 3 will be the ones that will go with him the whole way. But at the end of the day, he's repeated several times this week, I won, we get to do what we want, he gets to do what he wants.
Well, let's listen. I want to follow up on this point. Has he changed, or can he change the tone in Washington? Let's listen to the number 2 Republican on the Senate, John Kyle of Arizona, on the floor, not too happy with the president's rebuke of Republicans. Let's listen.
Discussing with the American people his approach to the stimulus of our economy, he's first really used some dangerous words, I would say. So it seems to me that the president is rather casually throwing out some careless language.
Rather casually throwing out some careless language in the view of that leading Republican, James Carville, essentially saying, we tried your way. It didn't work. We're not going back to those policies. I understand the president's position. He did win the election, but that was not a bipartisan speech he gave to House Democrats earlier this week.
Well, I don't know, but I don't know what problem with it that Senator Kyle has. I was in Arizona this week, and Senator thinks pretty bad in your state. But the truth of the matter is, he's done more to reach out to these Republicans, and it was very interesting watching Senator Shelby just a little bit earlier in your show, John. He's against this banking thing, and he hadn't even seen it. I mean, at some point, usually they would give you the courtesy of at least looking at it and then being against it. These guys are just against it before they see it. But I think that really the president has gone a long way in trying to invite Republicans, going over to see him, to do things like that. I don't think, and I don't know what the president said that Senator Kyle would find offensive at all. What he said was just the absolute truth.
Well, Ed, I want you in on this point, but I want to add a Democratic voice to this debate about bipartisanship. The Senate comes to this compromise. They have to water the bill down a little bit, take some spending out to get a few Republican votes. And the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, doesn't like it. And she says this: Washington seems consumed in the process argument of bipartisanship, when the rest of the country says they need this bill. The President of the United States, Ed, who is a member of Speaker Pelosi's own party, says this is critical, having true bipartisanship. She says it's a process argument. Does the Democratic president have a problem with the Democratic Speaker?
Well, I think he does, and I think to a certain extent, Democrats have waited a long time to have a president who will basically carry their agenda. But even more important, they're ready to move their own agenda forward, and this is Chairman Obey, Nancy Pelosi. A lot of these people have wanted some of these types of programs. They can call it stimulus or whatever at this point in time, but it's a lot of programs that they've tried to put in the past and haven't been able to. bipartisanship is a nice term, but the bottom line is there's very different viewpoints between these two parties, and Republicans feel that they weren't as responsible as they might have been on the fiscal issues during the Bush era, and now they're going to basically sit and be the watchdog and make sure that the public's money is spent well.